Good evening. Welcome to another PFFA public Zoom. Thank you all so much for coming along. I'm Catherine McBean, and I'm joined today by the lovely Jane Lyons from HAWL, Homeopathy at Welly Level, which I think is one of the most fantastic names we've got in terms of partners. Jane and I have done this a couple of times now, and she's absolutely brilliant. And if you've got any questions for those watching who couldn't make the event this evening, please feel free to email Jane at the details that we'll supply towards the end, and she'll be more than happy to answer any questions you've got. So I'm going to pop myself on mute now and hand over to Jane. She doesn't need me. She's more than capable of dealing with this, but do pop any questions in the chat and we'll get to those towards the end. Lovely. Welcome, Jane.
Hello, welcome everyone, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. So Catherine, can you just tell me that you can see that on the screen there? Hopefully you can. Brilliant. Okay, so don't worry, this isn't going to be one of those sessions. So I'll introduce myself very briefly first. My name's Jane Lyons, and I'm the secretary at Homeopathy at Welly Level. And this evening, I'm just going to be talking to you a little bit about what we do, our ethos, our raison d'etre, if you like, and how it can potentially help you and your animals and your family. So we'll get straight onto it. What is homeopathy at Welly Level, or HAWL? It was originally founded over 22 years ago now by a fabulous lady called Chris Lees. She was an army wife, and on the death of her husband when she was about 60 years old, she decided to go back to her original love, which was agriculture. And as part of her dissertation, she brought in, or melded, if you like, the two worlds of, she was a homeopath as well, a homeopathy and agriculture. And part of her dissertation was obviously going out and speaking to a lot of farmers and smallholders. And what she found is that farmers, some were aware of homeopathy, others weren't. Those who were aware of it wanted to use it, but didn't really understand how to use it properly. And as I'm sure we all know, if you don't know how to use something properly, then you can have mishaps with it, or it doesn't work and then you just give up on something. So they didn't really understand how to use it, or how to use the remedies, which is what we call homeopathic medicine. We call them remedies. And they needed help, really, just to understand how homeopathy can be brought onto the farm, onto the small holding, or into pet life or even home life. So she founded Homeopathy at Welly Level, set it up, and it still is a not-for-profit organisation. And this is a genuine not-for-profit. So any money that we do get from either grants or donations and so on go back into keeping the cost of these courses as low as possible for the farmers, because let's face it, we all need it, don't we? Especially in this day and age, in terms of the current financial climate. So she got together, and you'll see there on the penultimate bullet point, so the founding members, she brought together some homeopaths and homeopathic vets, and with she was a teacher initially as well. So with her teaching experience, they designed a course bringing in a very, very good teaching syllabus, and also the knowledge of homeopathy, human homeopaths, and also homeopathic vets, because in this country, you're not allowed to prescribe for other people's animals unless you're a registered homeopathic vet. So you can prescribe for your own, which is fantastic, because this is what our course does. It empowers you, the farmer, the smallholder, the animal owner, to prescribe for your own animals. So you don't need to rely all of the time on bringing someone else in. Now, I will say up front, there is obviously always the time and the place for the vet. This is certainly not replacing vets or veterinary prescriptions at all. But it's just a really another extremely useful tool in your golf bag of tools that you can then pick and choose as and when you want. And do you know what? If you need to call the vet out, you call the vet out. Whilst you're waiting for the vet to come, you may want to go in with a homeopathic remedy, which may or may not help. So it doesn't replace the vet, but it's a very, very useful, powerful, and holistic tool, medicine, remedy that you can bring to your animals. And in fact, we've had even particularly dairy farmers come back to us saying that it's actually by using homeopathy, it's made their dairy herds more profitable because they've produced more. That's just one small example. We mentioned the king at the bottom there. He was, when he was still the Prince of Wales, he actually helped Chris Lees found homeopathy at Welly level by giving her an initial grant. So she had a meeting with him. He was very, very interested. He gave her an initial grant, which helped to set it all up in the first place. So what is homeopathy? I hear some of you ask in your minds. So it's derived initially from the two Greek words meaning similar and disease. And it's because of this, it's based on the principle of like cures like. Now, basically it says that symptoms a substance can cause, it can also cure. So if you were to take something that's naturally occurring in nature, and as a healthy person, you take this substance, whether it's a plant or part of an animal and so on, usually a plant in this particular instance, and it will cause you to have symptoms, whether it's poisonous plant or so on. The symptoms that you would then find yourself having after having taken or eaten a little bit of this plant, if you were to display those symptoms in an unhealthy person, then that particular plant, the remedy made from that plant, could help those symptoms. And I'll use an example of an onion. So with an onion, if you were to cut an onion just for cooking, what happens with most people is that your eyes stream, your nose starts to run. If you were then to have, say, for example, hay fever during the summer, when it finally arrives, as I'm sure it will, touch wood, if your hay fever symptoms were a runny nose and streaming eyes, then actually the remedy made from the onion could help with your hay fever symptoms. And it's that like cures like principle that homeopathy is founded on, really. It's based upon it. Now, it was started or formulated or founded by the German doctor called Samuel Hahnemann back in the early 18th century. And it says there, it's practiced in people and animals all over the world. I think there's less than 10 countries that homeopathy is not actually practiced in some form or another. So as I said at the beginning, it's not a cure-all, but, and this is from, over 22 years now of running the homeopathy at Welly level courses. I think we've taught over 750 farmers, smallholders, and other animal owners so far. The feedback that we've got, so this is all anecdotal evidence from people who have used homeopathy. They've said that it, can help reduce vet bills by reducing not only the amount of times a vet has to come out, but also reduces the amount of antibiotics and the other prescribed medicines that the vet may have to give your animals. The antibiotic use, the reduction in that, is not only healthier for the animals, but of course it's healthier for everyone. Not only other animals, in the water systems, fisheries, etc., but also us in the food chain. Now, it doesn't take the place of good husbandry. So good animal management is always essential. And again, that's what we harp on about in the course as well. But it can not only address those acute symptoms, so, the case of that cow with mastitis, or the retained cleansing, or a difficult birth, lambing, calving, etc. But it can also just improve the general health of the animals. So if you were to use homeopathy, frequently to address the ad hoc issues that come up, what you'll find is actually the animals themselves don't become as susceptible to those things in the future. Or if you address things that have happened a long time ago that have been making that animal ill or not produce as much milk, for example, then by using the homeopathy, it can help them become generally healthier and therefore improve their health and their susceptibility to anything that happens in the future. So some examples of how homeopathy can help are listed here. So, weaning, and there are some fantastic remedies for helping animals to wean, or, if you're separating the lamb and the ewes, or the calves and the cows, I'm sure we've all heard that bleating or the bellowing whenever you do separate the offspring from the parent. There are some amazing homeopathy remedies that act instantly. And it's actually quite miraculous the way sometimes it can act. But also things like, dehorning, any transportation issues, just to calm the animals down whenever you are transporting them. Or indeed, whenever an animal is being transported to you and it arrives, it's a new animal, it's being introduced to the herd or the flock and so on for the first time. Again, there are remedies that can help just ease that transition for the animal itself. So these are, the routine events which can set the animal back, but also it can be used for the very acute situations like the accidents that happen on the farm. The horse, the cow, the sheep stepping on a nail, rusty nail, that are in the barn or out in the fields, etc. So we can address the acute short-term problems and also the longer term, what we call chronic issues. Now, how we do this is we match the remedy to the patient. Now, replace patient with human, cow, sheep, pig, duck, geese. Doesn't matter what animal. We're all animals at the end of the day. We can all be the patient. Observation is the key to all of this. And what we found is that farmers are already halfway there because farms are already observant. You already know your animals, you know what to look for, and sometimes you might not sure what you're looking at, but you know that it's not quite right. And that is the great time to go in with homeopathy at the very early onset. But even if you miss those symptoms or you've delayed a little bit, then it's the observation of the symptoms that the animal is displaying at the time will lead you to the remedy that will hopefully help it. So the actual use of homeopathy is actually very, very simple, more so with animals than with humans, because you don't have the emotional sort of baggage, if you like, that comes along with every one of us, no matter how old we are. But there are certain rules to understanding how to prescribe the correct homeopathic remedy and then how to administer it as well. And again, this harks back to right at the beginning, whenever I said that, whenever Chris first founded HAWL, the farmers needed help with understanding how to use homeopathy properly, because some of them were choosing a remedy, it wasn't working, so they'd give up and they'd resort back to the vet. And there is a time and a place for a vet, absolutely, but it's because they didn't understand how initially to diagnose the animal, to look at the symptoms, what was the animal actually telling them it needed. And it is fairly straightforward once you know what to look for and how to look for it. So observation is absolutely key. And, I'm sure, if you're all farmers or animal owners, you're halfway there already. You're in tune with your animals. And what homeopathy will do will give you the tools then to almost translate to what your animals are innately telling you and what you're understanding, what you're taking in, maybe subconsciously and maybe consciously. But turning that into, right, why is the animal ill? What is wrong? What is actually wrong with the animal? Turning that into a remedy, which will then help it. So just a few, examples. We know sometimes, if there's bad weather coming, we know that there's going to be certain animals that will get ill. few of my animals will go down with pneumonia this week because it's been really cold, it's been really clear, and there's 3 in the flock, 3 in the herd that always get pneumonia around this time of year. Or with the milk powder, you know, that milk smells a bit different. There's going to be some scours happening in our shed later. And, you know, you will see a pattern with some of these animals. And actually, by addressing it or treating it with homeopathies, you can not only help the animal at the time overcome its symptoms and get better, but then you can stop the reoccurrence of what happens when the next time there's a cold, clear night. Or, you know, next time there's been that cold wind coming from the east, for example, where they always go down with pneumonia, or fog fever, or, you know, wherever else, or, you know, whatever else is happening. You can help to prevent susceptibility in the future. And again, we just harp on about the observation because we look for what's changed. So we've got a healthy animal. But then when an animal becomes unhealthy or starting to become unhealthy, there are sometimes initially subtle changes, sometimes dramatic changes, especially in acute situations. But we just look for that subtle or not so subtle changes that occur, and then we teach how to translate that into how you can help the animal. So we do have some principles, or some rules, if you like. And one of them is that we treat the beast, not the bug. And by that, we mean we treat the animal presenting with the symptoms, the animal that is ill, the animal that is not well, the animal that is not healthy. We don't necessarily treat the disease itself, because diseases can manifest themselves, the same disease can manifest themselves in different ways in different people. So, as an example, vets and doctors will take a person or an animal that is ill, and they'll drill down to find that germ, that bacteria that's made that animal ill. What homeopathy does, and with your homeopathic hats on, you will look up and out and look at the entire animal, the whole of the beast, not just that particular bacteria or the germ that has taken hold and made the animal ill. You'll look at everything else. And I refer back to the hay fever analogy that I used earlier. So 2 people could have hay fever. They could be stood in the same field with the same pollen, and they could both have hay fever, but one person would have the streaming eyes and the runny nose, and the second person, their hay fever would be very scratchy, very dry, no streaming at all, but very, very dry throat, very tickly throat. So although it's the same hay fever, it's the same pollen, they would need 2 different remedies. Now, the onion could be indicated for the one with the streaming eyes and the running nose, but there's some other very good remedies that are indicated for hay fever that's very dry, very scratchy, very tickly. So same thing, same disease, same bug, but they're manifesting itself in different ways, therefore 2 different remedies are required. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. So we treat the importance of the totality. It's the totality of the symptoms. It's a holistic way of looking at prescribing and treating the animals. And we use something called the Lackham Square and the B&G. So we basically try and put the various symptoms that the animal is displaying into 4 main boxes and then introducing another 2. And by using that, we make sure we get the totality. So the L in Lackham, for example, stands for location. Now, I don't mean necessarily physically where that illness is, but it's more of what's the main thing that's worrying you. So it could be, you know, a cow with a very bad cough. It could be the retained cleansing. It could be respiratory issues, etc. And then we go through all of that, and then we go around the square, introducing the behaviours and the generals of the animal, which is the B and the G. And by making sure that we get a symptom in each of those boxes, if you like, we make sure we have the totality. And so we know where we can go to look at finding the remedy then that will fit that particular animal with that disease or illness. Now, I said we don't treat, we don't look at named diseases, so, like mastitis or orf or scours. Take scours, for example, there are so many different presentations of scours. It can be bloody, it can be mucousy, it can be liquid, it can be straining, it can be all of it, all of the above. I could go on for hours on scours. There are certain homeopathic remedies that are indicated for specific diseases, and these are called nosodes, and they're actually made from the illness itself. So tuberculinum, for example, is made from the diseased tissue of a lung that had TB. So there are certain remedies that can be used for named diseases, but in general, we take into account the totality of the symptoms. Now, you say, hang on a minute, you're just saying that there's a remedy made from a diseased lung. But the way that the homeopathic remedies are made is that they are safe to be taken, and there's none of the original substance in there. And we'll go into a little bit on the course about how the homeopathic remedies are made and why they are safe. So, for example, I prescribe quite a lot of aconite to some of my patients because I'm a homeopath. Aconite is a very, very poisonous, deadly plant, but it's also very, very good for shock, whether it's physical shock or mental and emotional shock. And because of the way that it's made, it's not poisonous in the substance as a homeopathic remedy. So we also, on the course, we talk about and explain how to take a case. Case taking is basically you look at your animal, you observe your animal, and you write down all the symptoms that you can see. And by using case studies, it's really, really useful just to bring the subject to life. And you've got a real animal, and these are all based on real animals, real problems. And then we can also introduce our reference books, which we've made to just simplify everything, because as a human homeopath myself, I've got books and books and books full of remedies, full of what the remedies are for, and various references. We've simplified things because if you're out on the farm, if you're out in the field, if you're out in the lambing shed and things are happening quickly, you can't look up books that have 700 pages that are Rizzler paper thin with very, very small writing on. And also in our experience, we know the remedies that farmers and smallholders and pet owners will be using the most of. So we've sort of condensed it, if you like, and come up with a very, very concise, easy reference books that you can use. And this is just an example of our Materia Medica, which is the Materia Medica is basically a list of symptoms within the list of remedies that are next to those symptoms. So you can see here, I'll just say, in the middle of the left-hand side there, discharges, nose, green discharges from the nose. There are, 5 remedies there that you can choose from. And the way that it works is that you basically come up with all of these symptoms, you pull together all of the remedies, and then you see which ones are coming through, and then you look at those remedies in a bit more detail, and then you can decide on the remedy. And with the Materia Medica, we have explanations of what the remedy picture is, if you like, so what that remedy can be used for, what you would see if that remedy is indicated. And I'm sure some people will have heard of arnica. Most people have heard of arnica as one of the main homeopathic remedies. You can usually get it. You used to get it in boots a lot. Some boots still do it. Holland and Barrett and so on. Really, really good for bruising. Very, very good for bruising. One of the main remedies for bruising. But it can also be used for other things. And certainly this time of year, around lambing time, arnica is used a lot by our shepherds, by our farmers, because it's very good for anyone who has gone through any sort of hard labour, including birthing labour, as well as just general hard work. So next time you're out in the garden, and you think, oh, I'm going to ache in the morning, get yourself some arnica. That would be my top tip. Arnica is definitely on hand in nearly every single room in my house, just in case you need it. But there are obviously other things that arnica can be used for. And this is an example of one of the pictures in our Materia Medica. They're just some good sort of visual reminders about what arnica can be used for. And obviously we go into the other remedies as well. So the remedies themselves can be found in all sorts of forms, usually pills, cream, or liquids. Now we don't sell anything. We just give knowledge. There are quite a few homeopathic pharmacies in the UK that are certified to sell homeopathic remedies, which we certainly recommend to people. And we teach how to use them, not then it's up to anyone else as to where you buy them from. You can make up your own as well. You can get the pills, and you can see there the little plastic containers in sort of in the middle in the background. You can dilute some pills or dissolve pills, sorry, in some water, which you can then use as sprays, for example, which is brilliant, especially because they're so easy to use. Especially if the animals coming through the crush, or when you separate the lambs and the ewes, you can just get your spray bottle like a Wild West cowboy, and you can just spray them on the muzzles, and then they get their dose of homeopathic remedy. And again, we teach how to properly give the remedies themselves to the various animals. So the course itself, like I say, it was designed by Chris, who was a very experienced teacher. So it's got the teaching syllabus in mind and how people learn and how different people learn. So it's done in different ways. It does assume no prior knowledge of homeopathy, but we've had first year homeopathic students come on the course and just said that how we teach it is so simple and yet so effective that it's really helped them with their studies. And we teach two different types of courses. We've got an online course, which is over, it's once a week for 7 weeks, 4 hours every week, because you can't do any more on Zoom. And then we have an in-person course, usually in Tetbury, in England. And that one runs for 3 full days, but not consecutively. So it's usually one day every 2 weeks for the 3 days. Just to allow that time in between time to digest the information, to go away and use the remedies that we give you, and sort of try them out, and then we come back and we sort of convene, and then we go on to the next sessions. And we also intersperse it, both the online and the in-person, with games and quizzes, so you're not sat there in front of a PowerPoint for the whole time. And the online course, you're in breakout rooms, with 2 or 3 other people, so it's a little bit cozier. And we limit the courses to 12 maximum on both of the online and in person, because any more than that, and you just don't get the interaction. And it's a lot better learning experience if it's 12 people or less. So, like I said, we've run them in other places as well in person. We've done some in Wales, down in Cornwall, and if there's enough interest anywhere in the country, we can always go wherever the need takes us, really. With regards to our teachers, they are all homeopaths or homeopathic vets. So, like I say, in this country, you cannot prescribe for other people's animals unless you're a registered homeopathic vet. But because we don't prescribe for your animals, we teach you how to prescribe for your animals. So we empower you with the knowledge that you can then go away. And of course, there's support afterwards. We've got sort of continued learning, if you like, on various 1-hour webinar sessions that, you know, everyone's welcome to join. We have Facebook groups, we have meetups, we have a free homeopathic vet helpline once you've done our course. So we have a homeopathic vet that you can just call up and say, do you know what, I'm torn between remedy X and remedy Y, and or do you know what, I'm just stuck. I've got no idea between, you know, everything that's going on. So she's always there on hand as well to support you afterwards. And we always mix up the teachers. So you'll have a different on the in-person course, you'll have two different teachers every day. And the online course, you'll have a different teacher every session. And, you know, that's not only to get the most out of their experience and the different experiences, but also the different teaching styles and learning styles as well to fit everyone. So that's our website, howl.co.uk. And these are just a few sort of testimonials, if you like, of people who have done the course. And every single person, every single farmer, smallholder, animal owner has come back to us at some point and just said, wow, it's really helped. And it's lovely to hear as well, in between the teaching days or the teaching sessions, if it's online, you know, people will give a remedy a go. And the difference in their animals that it's made just makes everything worthwhile, to be honest. And it's all about giving you the confidence to try something else. And if you need to call the vet, you call the vet. But you may want to go in. And we've had a few people come to us and say, oh yeah, call the vet out for this. But actually, between me calling the vet, I gave them a remedy, gave the animal a remedy. The vet came out, gave her a cup of tea, turned around in the car, didn't need to do anything at all. And then this is just from one of our farmers. He talks about his wife, Jane. That's not me, I will say. So this is just Edward here having a few words.
In the early days of our farming life, Jane was keen to try the homeopathy because she'd done the course. And I was a bit skeptical, didn't really think that maybe it was the right thing to be doing. But anyway, we tried it, and I found that the more we tried it, the better we liked it. And it was very simple to use, very easy to use. And we used it on off treatment to start off on lambs, and lambs responded really well to it. We found that within a week or two, one dose usually done it, but sometimes two, and just give them a squirt in their mouth, which is very easy, and it worked really well. We found that we didn't have, after a couple of weeks, it'd been cleared up really well, and really pleased with that. And other people in the area use it as well, which they find it very good. Also, we used, when we're debudding calves, we used to have calves shaking their head for a day or two, really sore and unsettled, and maybe scour a bit or things like that, just knock them back, maybe a bit of pneumonia. But now when we're deorning, we tend to use aconite and arnica, and just give them a squirt of that when we're debudding. And we find that that's all gone away. You don't hardly know by the next day that you've even done it. They seem to respond really well to that, and that's something we always use now. Every time we debud calves, we use it and find it good. So that's two of the things we use. We use it on some other things as well, but we do find that that those are two things that stick out in our mind.
Oh, so that's Edward there. Not a natural on camera, but bless him, he is really taken with homeopathy now, and a real advocate for us. So that's from the horse's mouth, really, if you pardon the expression. That's the end of my bit of my speaking part. That's me, Jane. You can email me there at the secretary at howl.co.uk. homeopathy.co.uk if you would like any more information or if you have any further questions. I am running a human homeopathy online course, probably in July, which is an hour and a half, 2 hours online, just to sort of introduce a little bit more about how homeopathy works, primarily for use in humans. But like I say, homeopathy is exactly the same. It's the same remedy, if it's the same symptoms, if you're a cow, a duck, a sheep, a pig, a man, a woman, a child. Our next homeopathy at Welly level course starts in June, and I've discussed with Catherine, we're again offering a discount for PFFA members. If you just want to quote PFFA 05, I think it is. I can't see because I've got the PFFA 05. So next online course starts in June, and the next in-person course starts in September. And as I say, we limit the numbers to 12 just to get the best teaching and learning experience for you guys at the end of the day. So Catherine, I will stop sharing.
No problem. Fantastic. That was brilliant. I always love listening to you. Make it sound so simple. Well, it is, isn't it? It
is, and that's the beauty
not
of it.
convoluted.
Yeah, no, that's all. Once you know the principles, the rules, it is actually very simple. Like I say, even more so on animals, but it's knowing how to do it in the first place, and then it's simple, just like with everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as we're a relatively small crew this evening, I'm more than happy if anyone wants to just come off mute and ask a question if they've got one. I don't think we need to worry too much about the chat, because there's just a few of us this evening. Otherwise, ordinarily, it can get quite noisy. But is there anyone who's actually got any questions they want to put to Jane now? I understand sometimes it's a lot to take in, and then you go away and you suddenly think of a question and you think, oh, blimey. But you're more than welcome, obviously, as Jane stated, to give her an email and ask any questions that you might have. But is there anyone here now who's got a question, be it sort of specific to their animals or an overview of the HAWL or HAWL, I always pronounce it incorrectly, courses or organisation at all?
I will just say to Jill, because I see her in the chat there, about the human homeopathy course. Jill, if you just drop me an email, I'll type my other email address in to the chat, if you wanted to get in touch with that, because I don't have access to your email from this.
Well, you can always send it to the PFFA.
Yeah, or send it to me, Jane. It's up to you.
But no, I'll send you an email. Thank you.
Great.
No problem. I'm just going to copy that, actually. Right. Oh, Jane, that was very interesting. Thank you. Do you have any advice about hypothyroidism in cats?
So with hypothyroidism in any animal, not just in cats, it all depends on how it's presenting. So what we need to do is look at the symptoms of your cat, and then we would repertorize it. So we'd look at all the symptoms and we'd see which remedies are coming up, and then we'd look a bit more closer into those remedies, just to see what fits your particular animal itself. So it's very, I mean, for I can't prescribe for other people's animals, especially at all. But also, unless you know sort of the background of the animal itself, whether it's human or other animal, then you can't really prescribe accurately. And if you don't prescribe accurately enough, then the remedy probably won't do anything at all, in which case it's pointless giving it to it in the first place. If you want some specific advice for your cat with a hypothyroidism, then I would recommend getting in or having a look at the British Association of Homeopathic Vets website. They have a search button where you type in your postcode and it will bring up all of the homeopathic vets that are nearest to you. Now, they are fairly few and far between, depending on where in the country you are. But it'd be worth maybe having a look on that website first. Failing that, send me an email. I can put you in touch with one of our teachers who are homeopathic vets, who work with small animals as well as farm animals. And then you can get in touch with them to discuss your particular issue. Okay.
Thank you very
Brilliant.
much, Jane. That's really helpful. Sorry, it's Lizetta. Do appreciate that. Yeah, my cat is appetite's gone crazy. She has had medication from the vet, but doesn't take to it very well.
Yeah.
She's losing weight now, eating about twice as much as she used to. She is 15. But thank you for your advice, and I will contact the British Association of Homeopathic Vets.
Yeah. So
I've put the address.
Yeah.
I popped it in the chat, guys. Lozetta, it's in the chat, the website address, my love. All right.
Thank you, Vicky.
No,
that's
fine.
Brilliant. Okay.
The link to it is also on our website if you suddenly lose that. But it's at the bottom of our website as well, the HAWL website.
Thank you very much for your help. Appreciate it. Okay.
Sure.
Good luck. No problem.
Thank you.
Joss asks, do we need to know the constitutional remedy for the animal like for humans?
So the constitutional remedy is a whole other ball game, and again, it's a whole. I could speak for hours on constitutional remedies. Constitutional remedies are the remedy that fits you as a person or fits that animal as an individual animal, and we call it almost like the holy grail in homeopathy. You can't always find it for humans or animals, but when you do, it's a really good sort of catch-all remedy that you can give to an animal or to a person if they're feeling a bit out of sorts. There's no specific remedy that's indicated. You're a bit of a loss. If you give them the constitutional, then it can just make things a bit better, if indeed, completely better. That's kind of the constitutional in a very, very brief nutshell. So you don't need to know constitutional for humans necessarily either. It helps for both animals and humans, because you've got that sort of baseline, if you like, which you can then sort of work from, but also you've got that remedy to fall back on as a sort of as a catch-all. It's a bit like having a tonic for the whole of the body, if you like. So, but you can absolutely find constitutional remedies for individual animals from what they've been susceptible to in the past, the reoccurring symptoms that they've had, their behavior in general, and their personality, because all animals, regardless of whether you're a frog or a cow or a human, we've all got our own individualisms. We've all got our own personalities, which can help point to the constitutions. So yes, it's helpful, but it's not an absolute must. You must find them constitutional in order to treat the animal. Absolutely not. Hopefully that helps.
Fantastic. We've got somebody in from New Zealand sending their thanks this evening, Jane.
I think that's
pretty awesome.
Who I just answered. Yep.
Yeah, you are just. Yeah, there you go.
Fantastic.
Well done.
We've actually had some New Zealanders on our course, which has been amazing. Some Australians as well. Lots from America as well. So we are, it's reaching globally, which is fantastic to hear.
Colin asks, I know HAWL produces a number of books. Can you give an overview of them?
Yeah, so we have our HAWL Materia Medica, which is a explanation of a lot of the key remedies used in farming in smallholders, in small holdings. And that was the brief snippet that I showed you earlier of the description of the remedy with sort of the pictorial diagrams to help, so it's not just a whole list of words. So that's the Materia Medica. We then have the repertory, which is a list of symptoms and their associated remedies, which is used on the course, and we give as part of the course as well. You don't have to buy those separately if you do take the course, and that's one of our reference books. So the Materia Medica and the repertory are our two main reference books. We've then written a couple of others which are specific to sheep and sort of other issues. So we're talking about the cows really, so cows and sheep essentially. And then we've got a couple of other sort of little sort of publications that are in the off at the moment.
Fantastic.
If you want any more
Steph,
information on them, you can just have a look on our website if you want, or send me some more information, or send me an email and I can send you some more info.
fantastic, brilliant. A big thanks from Steph in Scotland. Thank you, Steph. Let's see. Rosetta, that's great. Any more questions, guys? Anything anyone's got on the tip of their tongue or wants to ask this evening whilst we've got Jane here? Like I say, you're more than welcome to email Jane if you think about it afterwards, which is the sort of thing I usually do. I'll go away and ponder about things afterwards and I think, oh, blast, I wish I'd asked that. And, you know, so it's fine. You're more than welcome to. So Elaine, great. Thank you, Elaine. Fantastic. Anyone else? Are we all good? All good. Oh, you can come off mute, Colin, if it's easier, my love, if that's, or you're more than welcome to type in the chat, whatever. There you go, Colin.
Oh gosh, something else has popped. Right, here we go. Yeah, it's quicker to talk than type.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
With your the remedies, Jane, are there a lot which are derived from herbs that we can grow on our land?
Absolutely. There's probably, I want to say, between 3,500 and 5,000 remedies at the moment, and there are other ones being made or being discovered every day. I can't say hand on heart exactly what percentage of those are from herbs or plants, but a lot of them are. However, having a homeopathic remedy and the plant substance, the original plant substance itself, they won't produce the same effect if you were to take them. The homeopathic remedies are made from the plants, but they're made in such a way, they're diluted and succussed. And this is why you can only really buy them from homeopathic pharmacies, because they make them in line with the law, but also sort of properly and professionally. And it's the succussion that's really the key to making the remedies. But yes, a lot of them are made from plants and herbs and so on. And it's really interesting because sometimes you'll find that certain animals might, because I know a lot of farmers now used to as well, but they're sort of coming back into it now, planting almost like medicine. I think they call them medicine gardens or herb gardens within their, grazing fields and so on. What you'll find is that actually certain animals will migrate over to a certain area of a field and start munching in that particular area. And so the farmer will go out and go, I wonder why they're over there. He'll go out there and there'll be hawthorn that they're munching on because the animal innately knows that it needs it. So, a lot of them are made from plants and herbs that you will find either grow yourselves or just find naturally occurring in hedgerows and fields anyway.
It still amazes me with animals that I've had through my life that they know what they need so often. They do know what they need so often. I find it fascinating because I don't have that skill. Right, hang on. Lisa says, I have 5 little Yorkies and sometimes they refuse to eat and their toilet department can be quite bloody and liver-like. We only ever feed them chicken or beef and veg from the butcher. And I was wondering if they are potentially missing something in their diet or what could be causing this. Thank you. What are your thoughts, Jane? No, it's tricky.
Yeah, I mean, you need to think about what else is going on as well. Yes, potentially they could be missing something. I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist, so I certainly couldn't advise them in that respect. I don't know if they've had any blood results or blood tests or any other sort of tests for their stool to see what's going on. They could have picked up bacteria. It could be all sorts of things, I suppose. So, I guess we don't know what's causing it. But what you could do is look at the particular feed that you are buying from the butcher. Maybe where does it originate from? Question. Who knows? Could be something else that they've been exposed to whenever you've been out walking them. But also it'd be interesting to see what the rest of their symptoms are like. So when you say, their stools can be quite bloody and liver-like. Is there any mucus in there? Is there a smell to it? Does it happen at a particular time of day? Is it worse at a particular time of day? Is it worse with the change of the weather? When did it start? Did something happen when it all first started? Because sometimes, a physical shock or an emotional shock can set off issues, not just digestive, but everything else as well. So, there's a whole gambit that you could probably look at there. So I know that's.
Would you recommend her maybe contact a homeopathic vet from the list
I would.
Of the website we put up? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, get in touch with a homeopathic vet because they'll be able to look at look at it from a homeopathic point of view, and then take it from there. You can discuss with them.
Fabulous. Yeah, fabulous. No, wonderful, lovely. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Are we all good this evening? No, all good. Guys, thank you so much for coming along, and a big thank you to Jane. I've heard this is about the third time I've sort of listened with Jane, and I always learn something new, and it fascinates me. And I currently don't even have any animals, and I'm very tempted to do the course because I just think it's one of those things that I would just love to have the knowledge. So I might well do.
Of it, as Catherine, is that people go away and they start treating their families just from what they've learned. Because, as I said, it doesn't matter what animal you are. We're all, if you're displaying the symptom, you're displaying the symptom.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I'm going to bring across my neighbour as well, because she's got horses and dogs and chickens and sheep and the whole shebang going on. And I know she likes sort of more natural remedies. So I'm going to go and have a chat with her about doing it as well. I think she'll get much out of it. So guys, thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you for coming along. Much appreciated. This will be going up on our YouTube channel as soon as our clever man's back that can do it. And we'll share it on our socials, and we'd love you to share that with your friends and colleagues who you think might get something out of it. And if you know any farmers or smallholders or so forth, please do pop it in front of them. We could have effectively potentially save them some money on vet bills, or certainly hopefully increase the overall well-being of their animals. So thank you so much for your time this evening, and God bless, and we'll get this out soon. Many thanks.